Hey there, teacher friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the ELAR writing doctor. Today's question is about drawing a conclusion. If I use my left hand, it'll look like I'm using my right hand for you. If this is the introduction of a paragraph, the three fingers in the middle would be the body, and the conclusion would be the pinky. The conclusion that you would draw based on the information that they tell you. Now, I brought this little ball from Walmart, and it there's two cool things I like about it. Number one, it lights up, and number two, it has an eyeball inside because in many questions for reading, they want to know the main idea of a paragraph, which is sort of like in writing the central idea of a paragraph, the focus of the paragraph. And so when you touch the middle of your palm, what you can gather, what the conclusion that you can draw at the end has to be based on whatever you see in the topic sentence, the specific supporting sentences, and the conclusion sentence would be what you could draw based on the information. Now, the reason my background is in a kitchen is because this story begins in a kitchen where a young man makes a lot of mistakes in trying to make a spaghetti dinner for his family. And the last section, the section that the question that we're going to look at is about, is based on a how to. The purpose switches from a story to the last box being a how to. And what's interesting is instead of really using that box to tell you how to do something, he spends the entire box telling you how not to do things because of all the mistakes that he made. So I suggest that you go to Walmart in the birthday parties, the celebration section, and for 97 cents, you can buy these light up balls that have eyeballs inside. And that's kind of cool because a lot of questions that students struggle with are based on a central idea, controlling idea, main idea of a paragraph, a focus of a story. Well, what they wanted to know was what conclusion could you draw based on the focus of the how to, based on the main ideas that come out in all of the list. So let's take a look at the question so you can see what needs to happen. Which, and as I've shared with you in some of my reading videos, all questions are based on who, what, when, where, which, or how. Who, what, when, where, which, who, what, when, where, which, why, or how. You're going to notice that they're not going to ask yes or no questions for reading or science or social studies, and especially math. They're going to ask questions that require your students to infer. So it says, what conclusion, what pinky about Phineas our main character, is best supported by the list at the end of the story. The list, when you look at it, is based on a how not to do something. So at the end of the story. So what we have to do is look at the end of the story, which is right here. And there's the list. So I want you to notice I labeled question 33 because they asked about the list at the end of the story. And even though there wasn't a title, based on the bad experiences, the main idea of this list of how to's, how not to, would be how not to cook. So, what I've done, I read the 5 things on the list and I wrote a hashtag summary of each sentence. Number 1 said, stir the spaghetti or it will clump into a log. That's a bad thing that happened to him in his story. So he's trying to teach you, don't make my mistake. Number 2 was stir the sauce or it's going to burn the bottom of the pot. As you can see, another negative thing happened. Things that can go wrong when you try to cook in a kitchen. 2 pounds of pasta. Apparently, you don't need it because that's going to be able to feed your family. Should I spell feed correctly? For an entire week. If you cook the spaghetti for 40 minutes, what's going to happen? It's going to disintegrate, so don't eat it. So far, negative. I don't need to feed my family spaghetti for a week, and I don't want to eat spaghetti that has disintegrated because we cooked it too long. And the last sentence was a little bit tricky, so I'm going to have to infer and kind of say what they mean. Cheerios for dinner is good, especially with garlic bread. Well, initially, the spaghetti was meant to go with the garlic bread. And so apparently, because the student can't eat the spaghetti because of all the mistakes he made, he sarcastically has his last sentence saying that Cheerios for dinner is good. Now, what he's saying is, I can't eat that meal. And so, what they're asking is, what could be the conclusion that we could draw if I were to add one more finger? And I want you to notice that I drew a hand with lots of fingers, one for each thing on the list. The main idea is things not to do, things to do so that you won't have problems. You can learn from his mistake, the focus, the main idea. And again, when you touch the middle of your palm and you wiggle your muscles, you'll be able to feel all of them moving. But if you only touch your thumb and wiggle muscles, apparently that's only what that finger is about. And so we have to make sure that if it says the list, we can't draw a conclusion unless we read everything in the entire list. So, based on what we drew, he hopes to, he never has to cook again. He never said he hated cooking. So, I don't think we would choose this one because it wouldn't be based on something that his heart would state. It just said some precautions of some things to do so that you won't have all the mistakes that he had. He discovers that cooking is easier than he thought. Well, easy is positive, and what was true was negative, that it was actually harder than he thought. And so, because that was an opposite opinion, I'm going to make a little circle. Easy is an opinion. If the word harder would have been there, a different opinion, a negative opinion, I would have been able to choose that one. So I'm going to eliminate that one. He realized he's made some mistakes while cooking. Well, he mentions 5 things that went wrong. So that you can assume, because of his how not to, could be a possible answer. He decides that pasta is his favorite meal to cook. Well, favorite is an opinion. All he got was negative. It wasn't in the content, it was a how not to. So this wasn't mentioned in the list. It was just a bunch of things not to do because of the mistakes that he made. So the answer that best fits this is letter C, because every finger has one mistake. And so you can draw a conclusion that based on him telling you what to do and what can happen if you don't do it, he's realized that he has made some mistakes. So yes, we did read in the passage and the question. We've underlined in both places. We've labeled in both places. We've eliminated 3 answers. A, B, and D. And we've selected C because, yes, every single finger that we drew on the hand helps towards our main idea about mistakes that you can make when you're cooking things that go wrong, the how to. So, as you can see, this only got 57% correct from reporting category to student expectation 4.6F. Making inferences is similar to drawing conclusions. What evidence was given, a bunch of things that went wrong. So you have to understand that uh, he must have made mistakes if his how to is what to do because of all the things, all the mistakes that he made. So I highly suggest that you think of reading a paragraph as something, a list of sentences that has a main idea, a topic sentence, some specific supporting sentences, and a conclusion that's either there or one that we have to draw. And so that they were just asking us, based on the information in the paragraph, what conclusion can we draw? Another way to think of a hand for reading is, if this is the entire passage, then the thumb would be the introduction. However many fingers, if you have 6 paragraphs in the middle, you could have 6 fingers and you could just draw them, and your pinky would be your closing paragraph, your conclusion. It could be in the low grades, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the passage. And again, it's still, the entire thing is the central idea, the focus of a selection, a focus of a paragraph, the topic sentence. Based on the topic sentence, what specific supporting sentences do we need? Go ahead and share this with your reading teacher friends. When only about half of the students get a question correct, maybe the way that we taught it needs to be tweaked. And so things that are hard can be taught using things that are easy, based on the entire information, the ideas in this paragraph, the list of things to do so that things won't go wrong. What conclusion can we draw? So that's as simple as drawing a hand, and on each finger writing the hashtag, the key words based on what each sentence is telling you. So enjoy the rest of your day. Share this video with your reading ELAR friends. so we can work on inferencing and drawing conclusions. God bless and take care.